Levi Mercer gripped the stem of his wineglass, watching condensation bead and run down its surface. The chatter around the Danvers dining table swelled and ebbed like waves against the shore, but he remained silent, an island in the midst of his wife's boisterous family. "So, Levy," Hollis Danvers boomed from the head of the table, carving knife glinting under the chandelier light. "How's that tech job treating you these days? Making the big bucks yet?" Bree shot her father a look that Levi recognized all too well. Complicity wrapped in feigned innocence. She smoothed her napkin across her lap, red nails stark against the white cloth. "Dad, you know, Levy doesn't like talking about money. He was just promoted last month." Levi said, feeling the familiar tightness gathering in his throat. He had prepared for this, rehearsed responses in the car on the drive over. Still, the stutter emerged, subtle but present. Cassidy, Bree's younger sister, leaned forward with genuine interest. "Congratulations. What's the new position?" "As Senior Systems Architect." Levi took a quick sip of wine, hoping the liquid would wash away the blockage in his throat. "It's a good opportunity." "Well, look at you," Hollis said, sawing through his ham with unnecessary force. "Moving up in the world, might finally be able to get Bree that vacation house she's always wanted." Bree laughed, the sound musical yet somehow hollow. "Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Dad." Mrs. Danvers passed a bowl of mashed potatoes toward Levi. "More, dear." "Thank you," he managed without stuttering. A small victory that no one but him would notice or celebrate. Dinner progressed with the usual rhythms of the Danvers household. Hollis dominating conversation, Bree performing as the charming daughter, Cassidy attempting to smooth rough edges, and Mrs. Danvers silently refilling plates and glasses. Levi had learned to navigate these waters over the 5 years of his marriage to Bree, finding the quiet moments, speaking only when necessary. When the main course plates were cleared and dessert was being prepared in the kitchen, Hollis raised his glass. "I'd like to propose a toast." Everyone reached for their glasses. Levy's fingers found his, cool against his palm. "To family," Hollis declared. "The Danvers clan and our additions." He nodded toward Levi with something that wasn't quite respect. "May the new year bring us all health, wealth, and maybe some grandkids." He winked at Bree. "Your turn, Levy," Bree said, nudging him with her elbow. "Say something." The table's attention swiveled toward him. 5 pairs of eyes waiting, judging. Levi began, then felt the familiar seize in his vocal cords. "I do want to thank you for welcoming me into your home for Christmas." His pulse quickened, each syllable a mountain to climb. "Family is important. And I'm grateful to be part of yours." The silence that followed lasted only seconds, but to Levy, it stretched like hours. Then Bree cleared her throat. "Oh my God," she said, her voice light with amusement. "Let me translate what my husband is trying to say." She straightened in her chair, adjusted an invisible tie. "And then, I do want to thank you." Her impression was exaggerated, grotesque. Hollis's laughter was loud and abrupt as a gunshot. "Breel," Mrs. Danvers admonished, but her protest was weak, her eyes darting nervously between her husband and daughter. "What?" Bree's eyes widened with mock innocence. "I'm just helping him out." "Right, honey." She turned to Levy, her smile sweet as antifreeze, eliciting a snicker from Hollis's end of the table. Cassidy looked down at her plate, silent complicity written in her posture. Struggling like a broken machine, Bree continued, warming to her audience. "Maybe if we turn him off and on again, he'll learn to speak like a normal person." Laughter rippled around the table. Even Mrs. Danvers, after a moment's hesitation, joined with a reluctant chuckle. Only Cassidy remained quiet, but she didn't object either. Levy's face burned, but he forced the corners of his mouth upward, a smile-shaped mask that felt like plastic stretched over bone. He rose from his chair, collected his plate and Bree's. "I'll help with the dishes," he said, each word careful and measured. In the kitchen, he stacked plates with methodical precision, letting water run over his hands until it scalded. The sound of laughter continued from the dining room, punctuated by Bree's voice mimicking his stutter to renewed hilarity. Broken machine. Turn him off and on again. Levy dried his hands, pressed them against the cool granite countertop, and made a decision. Inside, something calculated and cold was spreading, like ice forming over a lake. Bree snored softly beside him, her back turned, hair splayed across the pillow in careless waves. 3:15 in the morning, and Levi hadn't slept. The events of the dinner replayed in his mind, a continuous loop of humiliation and betrayal. He slipped from the bed without disturbing her. In the guest bathroom, away from their shared master, he'd already stashed a pre-packed bag, toiletries, a few changes of clothes, essential documents. Not enough to be noticed missing, but enough to start over. Levi moved through the house they'd shared for 4 years, collecting the things that mattered. His brother Albie's watch, the external hard drive with his private projects, the small wooden box containing his mother's wedding ring. He wrote no note. What could he possibly say that hadn't been made abundantly clear at that dinner table? 5 years of marriage, dissolving in a single night of clear-eyed recognition. She had never respected him, never loved him. Not really. At the front door, he paused, key in hand. Their wedding photo hung in the entryway. Bree radiant in white, himself smiling with hope and pride. He lifted it from the wall, removed the photo from the frame, and placed it face down on the entry table, a small act of finality. Outside, the winter air bit at his face. Ash Ridge slept under a blanket of fresh snow, houses dark except for the occasional porch light. His breath clouded before him as he loaded his bag into the car and slipped behind the wheel. He'd secured an apartment site unseen 3 weeks ago, paid the first month's rent in cash. A contingency plan he hadn't admitted to himself he was making, as if some part of him had always known this moment would come. The car started with a quiet rumble. Levy backed out of the driveway for the last time, leaving no tire tracks in the freshly fallen snow. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a combined living room and kitchen, bathroom with a shower stall, but no tub. But it was clean, functional, and most importantly, his alone. Levi unpacked his meager belongings, arranging them with care in the new space. The watch went on the bedside table, the wooden box in the drawer beneath. The sun broke over Ash Ridge, painting the snow-covered town in shades of pink and gold. He sat at the window with a cup of coffee. His phone, switched off since leaving the house, remained dark on the table beside him. Memory carried him back 15 years to a high school hallway lined with metal lockers. Look at the retard trying to tea-talk. Jeremy Finch, varsity linebacker, 16 years old and already cruel beyond his years, had cornered Levy between classes. "Hey, dickhead." Albie's voice had cut through the gathering crowd of onlookers. 2 years older than Levi, broader in the shoulders, fearless where Levi was cautious. "Say that again, and you'll be drinking through a straw for the rest of the semester." Jeremy had backed down, muttering threats that everyone knew were empty. Albie had thrown an arm around Levy's shoulders, walking him to class. "You don't owe people understanding when they mock your wounds," Albie had told him later, sitting on the roof of their parents' house, sharing a stolen cigarette. "You don't owe them anything at all." Now, in the quiet of his new apartment, Levi whispered the words aloud. "I don't owe them anything at all." His phone blinked to life when he finally turned it on. 37 missed calls from Bree. 12 voicemails. 63 text messages, escalating from confusion to anger to pleading. The latest, sent an hour ago. "Where are you? Please come home. We could talk about this. I'm sorry." Levi blocked her number without reading the rest, then methodically blocked every member of the Danders family. He created a new email address, deactivated his social media accounts, and contacted his employer to request remote work due to family circumstances. They agreed, valuing his skills enough to accommodate the unusual request. He was erasing himself from Brielle Mercer's life. Piece by piece, connection by connection. In the days that followed, Levi established new routines. Morning coffee by the window. Work at the small desk he purchased from a second-hand store. Evening walks through unfamiliar neighborhoods. Head down against the winter chill and the possibility of recognition. 2 weeks after Christmas, he visited Albie's grave for the first time since leaving Bree. The cemetery was peaceful under its blanket of snow, headstones rising like islands in a frozen sea. Levi brushed snow from his brother's marker, tracing the engraved letters with gloved fingers. Albert James Mercer, beloved son and brother. 1982 to 2019. I left her, Levi said aloud, his voice clear in the winter stillness. No stutter here, with no one to judge or mock. You were right about her. About all of them. The wind whispered through bare tree branches overhead. Nature's quiet acknowledgement. I should have listened to you from the beginning, Levi continued. You saw through her. Saw what I was too. He paused, searching for the word. Not blind. Not stupid. Too hopeful to see. Hope. Such a dangerous thing. It had led him into Brielle's arms. Into her family. Into believing he could be accepted despite, or even with, a stutter. Hope had made him vulnerable. Never again. On his way back to the apartment, Levi passed a community center with a sign in the window. Speech therapy sessions. Tuesday evenings. He stopped, considering not to fix his stutter. He'd tried that before with minimal success, but perhaps to gain better control over it. To master clarity under pressure. To find the power in his pauses. It was a beginning. A month after his disappearance, Officer Reeves knocked on Levy's apartment door. Middle-aged with tired eyes and a perpetually rumpled uniform, he seemed uncomfortable with his assignment. Your wife filed a missing person report, he explained, standing awkwardly in the doorway. Says you vanished Christmas night. As you can see, I'm not missing, Levy replied, gesturing to his clearly inhabited apartment. I left of my own free will. Mind if I ask why? Officer Reeves didn't step inside, respecting the boundary Levi had established with his body language. I'd rather not discuss my private matters. The officer nodded, making a note in a small pad. She's worried about you. She shouldn't be. Will you at least let her know you're alive and well? Save the department some paperwork. Levi considered this, then shook his head. No, I'm exercising my right to privacy. I'm an adult of sound mind, as you can confirm. And I choose to have no contact with Brielle Mercer. Officer Reeves sighed, but didn't argue. Fair enough. I'll let her know you've been found and are choosing no contact, but don't be surprised if she keeps trying. I've blocked her number, Levi said, and if she comes here, I'll file for a restraining order. After the officer left, Levi sat by the window, watching snow begin to fall again. The branch of a nearby maple tree tapped against the glass with each gust of wind, like fingernails seeking entrance. But he was under no illusions. This was just the beginning. Bree wouldn't accept his departure so easily. She wasn't used to losing, to being left, to having her desires thwarted. And when Brielle Danvers Mercer didn't get what she wanted, she became dangerous. Let her come, he thought. I'm not the same man who left that dinner table. I'm becoming something else, something that doesn't break, something she can't turn off and on again. February in Ash Ridge brought freezing rain that encased the town in a glittering shell of ice. Levi watched it form from his apartment window, coating tree branches and power lines with crystalline armor. His phone buzzed with a text from a number he didn't recognize. It's Cassidy. Got a new phone. Need to talk to you. Please. Levy's thumb hovered over the block button, then paused. Cassidy had been there at the dinner, had witnessed his humiliation, had said nothing in his defense. But unlike Bree or Hollis, she hadn't actively participated. Still, she was a Danvers, blood running thick with the same casual cruelty. He blocked the number without responding. Later that afternoon, a knock at his door. When he checked through the peephole, no one was there, but a folded note had been slipped underneath. Levy, I know you're in there. People are talking. They're saying you had some kind of breakdown. Mom and Dad are telling everyone you're mentally unstable. Please let me explain. Cassidy. He crumpled the note and threw it away. The next day, another one. What Bree did was wrong. I should have said something. I'm sorry. Please call me. Cassidy. This one he burned in the sink, watching the edges curl and blacken before flushing the ashes down the drain. 3 days later, Elgin Price from next door, a retired professor with wild hair and perpetually ink-stained fingers, intercepted him in the building's cramped lobby. Your sister-in-law has been asking around about you, Elgin said without preamble. Blonde, about 30, looks like she could sell ice to Eskimos or break your heart without blinking. That's Cassidy, Levi confirmed, shifting his grocery bag to his other arm. Did you tell her anything? Not my business to tell, Elgin shrugged, but thought you should know. She's persistent. Levi thanked him and retreated to his apartment, double-checking the locks. Cassidy's involvement was unexpected. She had always been Bree's shadow, the quieter sister content to bask in the reflected glory of Breel's charisma. That night, he heard it for the first time. The sound of Bree's voice carrying through the night air. He'd been careful, selecting an apartment building across town, paying cash, using a P.O. box for mail. But somehow she'd found him. Levy, her voice echoed in the parking lot below. I know you're in there. You can't just disappear. He didn't approach the window. Didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing his silhouette. Instead, he sat perfectly still at his kitchen table, listening. This is ridiculous. It was a joke. One stupid joke and you blow up our entire marriage. Her voice grew louder, angrier as the silence from his apartment continued. 5 years, Levi. 5 years, and you don't even have the decency to leave a note. To talk to me like an adult. You're proving everyone right about you. The sound of something hitting the building. A rock or ice ball thrown in frustration. Fine. Hide in there. Run away from your problems like you always do. You think this makes you strong. It makes you a coward. Eventually, a car engine started. Tires squealed against ice as she drove away. Levy released the breath he'd been holding, unclenched his fists to find half-moon indentations where his nails had dug into his palms. The next morning, Elgin knocked on his door. Got a security system you might be interested in, he said when Levi answered. Nothing fancy, just some cameras that connect to your phone. After last night's performance, figured you might want eyes on your parking lot. Why are you helping me? Levy asked, genuinely puzzled. They'd exchanged no more than brief greetings before this. Elgin scratched his stubbled chin. Let's just say I recognize the look of a man who's done being everyone's punching bag. He offered a lopsided smile. Also, your ex woke me up, and I'm a vengeful old bastard when it comes to my sleep. The cameras were installed that afternoon, and Levy gave Elgin a bottle of scotch in thanks. An unexpected alliance, but a welcome one. Over the following weeks, Bree's presence became a regular occurrence. Notes shoved under his door. Late-night shouts from the parking lot. Once, flowers left outside with an apology card that read simply, I miss you. Please talk to me. He disposed of them all without response. At work, things became complicated. Bree had called his office, spinning tales of mental health crises and family emergencies. His direct supervisor, Karen, approached him during a video call. Levy, I need to ask, is everything all right at home? Your wife has been calling, and she seems extremely concerned. She's not my wife anymore, Levy replied, keeping his voice steady. We're separated. She's having trouble accepting that. Karen's expression softened with understanding. I'm sorry to hear that. Do you need any support? Time off? No, Levi said firmly. Work is the one normal thing in my life right now. I'd like to keep it that way. Of course, just let me know if that changes. As winter melted into spring, the gossip in Ash Ridge evolved. Levi heard snippets from Elgin, who seemed to delight in collecting the various versions of his disappearance circulating through town. According to the ladies at the book club, you had a full psychotic break, Elgin reported, chuckling as they set up a chessboard on his cluttered balcony. Apparently you're living in the woods, writing manifestos on tree bark. Leva moved a pawn forward. And what does Brielle say to that? Oh, she's playing the concerned, long-suffering wife. Claims you've struggled with your mental health for years, that the holidays triggered some kind of episode. Elgin captured the pawn with a satisfied smirk. But people are starting to talk. They remember how she used to treat you in public. Little comments, little jabs. Nobody likes a bully, even a pretty one. The knowledge that Bree was losing social standing shouldn't have satisfied him as much as it did. But Levy savored it nonetheless, a small taste of what was to come. On a Tuesday evening in early April, Levi attended his first speech therapy session at the community center. The group was small, 5 other adults, ranging in age from their 20s to their 60s, all dealing with various speech impediments. The therapist, Dr. Marina Chun, was in her 40s with calm eyes and a direct manner that Levi appreciated. No empty platitudes or false promises of miraculous cures. Speech is power, she told the group during their first session. Humans communicate in many ways, but in our society, verbal communication carries particular weight. Our goal isn't to erase your stutter or lisp or unique speech pattern. It's to give you control over it, to find your voice and your power within it. Levi practiced breathing techniques, mouth exercises, and strategies for managing stress during speech. He learned to embrace the pauses his stutter created, to use them intentionally rather than fighting against them. A pause can be powerful, Dr. Chun told him during a one-on-one moment. It creates anticipation, makes people listen more closely to what follows. Many great orators use deliberate pauses for dramatic effect. The idea resonated with him, transforming what had always been a weakness into a potential strength. After a therapy session in late April, Levi spotted a familiar figure leaning against a car in the community center parking lot. Jory Lang, Albie's former girlfriend. They hadn't spoken since Albie's funeral 5 years ago. She straightened when she saw him, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. I thought it was you, she said, approaching with cautious steps. I volunteer at the center on Thursdays. Cassidy mentioned she'd seen you here. Levy's guard immediately went up. Are you reporting back to the Danvers family now? Jory's eyebrows rose. No, absolutely not. I ran into Cassidy at the grocery store. She's worried about you. I don't need her worry. Fair enough. Jory didn't push, didn't press for explanations. It was one of the things Albie had loved about her. Her ability to respect boundaries. It's good to see you, Leva. You look different. Different, he supplied. I was going to say more yourself. She smiled slightly. Albie would be glad. The mention of his brother created a momentary crack in Levy's carefully constructed armor. Would he? He always wanted you to stand up for yourself more. Jory glanced at her watch. I have to go, but... She hesitated, then pulled a business card from her pocket. I'm working at Westridge Medical Center now. Nursing supervisor. If you ever want to grab coffee, catch up. Leva took the card, tucked it into his jacket pocket. Thank you. As he watched her walk away, something Albie had said years ago echoed in his mind. Jory gets it. She sees people, really sees them. Back at his apartment, Levi pinned Jory's card to his refrigerator with a magnet. Not ready to call her yet, but not willing to discard the connection either. That night, his phone buzzed with a notification from the security app. Movement in the parking lot. Through the grainy night vision feed, he watched Bree approach the building, paper in hand. Another note, presumably, but instead of slipping it under his door, she taked it to the building's main entrance, where anyone entering or leaving would see it. The next morning, he retrieved it before any of his neighbors could read its contents. I know you're hurting. I know I hurt you, but disappearing like this is cruel. My therapist says you're punishing me to make yourself feel powerful. Is it working, Levi? Do you feel like a big man now? Call me. We need to talk this through like adults." Her handwriting was perfect, as always. Each letter precisely formed. Even in written form, Bree's voice carried its familiar mix of concern and condescension. The subtle poison wrapped in sweet reasoning. Levi tore the note into tiny pieces and scattered them into the wind. 2 days later, he called Jory. They met at a small cafe on the outskirts of town, away from the usual Ash Ridge hangouts. Jory wore scrubs under her jacket, coming straight from an overnight shift. "Sorry about the outfit," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "And my general zombie appearance." "You look fine," Levi assured her, pushing a large coffee toward her side of the table. "I remember Albie saying you survived on caffeine during nursing school." She smiled at the memory, wrapping her hands around the mug. "He used to bring me coffee in the library at 2 in the morning. Snuck it past the guards in his jacket." For a while, they traded stories about Albie, his terrible singing voice, his habit of adopting stray animals, the time he'd nearly burned down their apartment trying to make Jory a birthday cake. "I miss him," Jory said, finally, her voice soft with old grief. "Every day." Levi stared into his coffee. He would have known what to do about Bree. He always saw through her. Jory's expression sharpened. "What happened, Levi?" "Last I heard, you two were the perfect couple. Perfect on the outside, rotting underneath." The words came easier than expected, the stutter minimal. "She mocked me at Christmas dinner." My stutter in front of her whole family turned it into a show. Jory's face darkened with anger. That witch. The simple validation, the immediate taking of his side, loosened something in Levy's chest. "She said I was like a broken machine, that maybe they should turn me off and on again to fix me." "And you left," Jory guessed. "That night. No note, no explanation. Just disappeared." Levy nodded. "Good for you." "Really?" Levy raised an eyebrow. "Most people would say I should have talked to her. Tried to work it out. Most people haven't been systematically degraded by someone who claimed to love them." Jory's voice was matter-of-fact. "Besides, Albie told me years ago how she treated you. How she helped you finish sentences in public. Make little jokes at your expense." He hated it. This was news to Levi. "He never said anything to me. He said you'd defend her, that you couldn't see it." She reached across the table, briefly touched his hand. "I'm glad you finally did." They met for coffee again the following week, and then dinner the week after that. Not dating. The ghost of Albie stood between them, a connection and a barrier both, but friendship blooming in the space where grief had once consumed all the oxygen. One evening in late May, Jory helped him practice a speech Dr. Chun had assigned, a 2-minute presentation on any topic of his choosing. Levi had selected the history of encryption, a subject he knew intimately from his work. "That was good," Jory said after his first attempt in her living room, "but you're rushing through the technical terms. Try to slow down, lean into it." "I rush when I feel this stutter coming," Levi admitted. "Don't. Slow down, make them wait for it. You know this stuff better than anyone they've ever met. Make them earn the knowledge." They practiced for hours, Jory pushing him to embrace the pauses, to own them rather than fear them. By midnight, he could deliver the entire speech with only 3 noticeable stutters, each one handled with dignity rather than shame. "You're getting really good at this," Jory said, impressed. "Planning to give TED talks soon?" Levi smiled, a genuine one that reached his eyes. "Nothing that ambitious. Just want to be ready for when the time comes." "Ready for what?" "Confrontation," he said simply. "Revenge." Jory studied him for a long moment. "Levi, what exactly are you planning?" "Nothing illegal," he assured her. "Just justice, on my terms." "Be careful," she warned. "Revenge can consume you if you let it." "I'm not consumed," Levi said. "I'm focused." But that night, as he drove home, Jory's warning echoed in his mind. Was he letting vengeance consume him? Or was he finally claiming the power that had been denied him for so long? The answer, he decided, would lie in the execution, not in blind rage, but in calculated, measured response. Not destruction for its own sake, but consequences precisely calibrated to the crime. Bree had humiliated him publicly. Justice would require the same. June brought summer heat to Ash Ridge, the kind that shimmered above asphalt and made tempers flare. Levy's apartment had no air conditioning, so he spent his evenings on a small balcony, laptop open, security feed running in the background. Bree's visits had become less frequent, but more erratic. Sometimes weeks would pass with no sign of her. Then she would appear 3 nights in a row, alternating between tears and rage. Elgin emerged onto his adjacent balcony with 2 beers, handed one to Levi. "Your stalker's been quiet lately." "She's regrouping," Levy replied, accepting the cold bottle. "Planning something new. You ever think about just talking to her, putting an end to all this drama?" Levy took a long sip before answering. "Would you negotiate with a virus? Reason with a hurricane?" Elgin chuckled. Point taken. He settled in his chair, propping his feet on the railing. "So what's the end game here, kid? Can't avoid her forever in a town this size." "I'm not avoiding her. I'm waiting." "For what?" Levy didn't answer. But his expression must have revealed something, because Elgin studied him with newfound interest. Well, the older man murmured, "The quiet ones really are the most dangerous." He raised his bottle in a toast. "Whatever you're planning, count me in. Been too long since I've been part of a good comeuppance." The opportunity Levi had been waiting for arrived a week later in the form of a community event announcement. Ash Ridge, Summer Festival Local Business Showcase. Bree's marketing firm would be featured prominently, with her scheduled to give a presentation on building your brand in a digital age. Her first major public appearance since Levy's departure. Perfect. Levi had been meticulously combing through old videos from their marriage. Family gatherings, parties, holidays, moments when Bree thought she was being subtly cruel. When she didn't realize she was being recorded, he found what he needed in footage from Thanksgiving 2 years earlier. Bree, slightly drunk on wine, demonstrating Levy's stutter to her college friends, laughing as she exaggerated his halting speech. This is him trying to order at a restaurant. "I would like the CC chicken." The group's laughter, the camera panning to Levy's face, his forced smile, the humiliation in his eyes. Using skills honed during his years in tech, Levi edited the clip, removing any identifying features of the other guests, enhancing the audio to clearly capture Bree's mockery. 3 minutes and 27 seconds of pure, undeniable cruelty. He sent it anonymously to Derek Hadley, host of Ash Ridge's most popular radio show, and notorious gossip. Included was a brief message. "Thought you might find this interesting. Local marketing executive Bree Mercer showing her true colors 3 days before the summer festival." Derek played the clip on his morning show. "Listeners, I've received some disturbing footage of one of our local business leaders, Bree Mercer of Pinnacle Marketing, mocking individuals with speech impediments," Derek announced, his voice serious with performative concern. "I warn you, what you're about to hear is quite upsetting." The clip played in its entirety. "Now, I have to say," Derek continued after it ended, "this kind of behavior is completely unacceptable in today's society. We've reached out to Ms. Mercer for comment, but haven't received a response yet. In the meantime, I'd like to hear from you, Ash Ridge. Call in with your thoughts on this troubling situation." Levi listened to the broadcast from his office, a cold smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The calls poured in. Outrage, condemnation, a few half-hearted defenses suggesting the clip might be taken out of context. By that afternoon, the video had spread across local social media. By evening, Pinnacle Marketing had issued a statement. "We are aware of the video circulating and take these matters very seriously. We are investigating the situation and will address it appropriately." The next day, Bree was removed from the summer festival lineup. Jory called him that night. "Did you see the news about Bree?" I saw, Levy replied, keeping his voice neutral. A pause on the line. Did you have anything to do with it? Why would you think that? Levy, her tone was warning, concerned. What happened to her was public humiliation. Exactly what she did to me. Another pause, longer this time. I understand why you'd want revenge. But this path, it doesn't lead anywhere good. It leads to justice, Levi countered, to consequences for actions, something Braille Danvers has never experienced in her entire privileged life. And when does it end? Jory asked softly. When is it enough? The question hung between them, unanswered. The fallout continued over the following days. Pinnacle Marketing placed Breve on administrative leave pending review. Several local businesses withdrew their accounts from the firm, citing concerns about values alignment. Cassidy appeared at his door again, eyes red-rimmed from crying. Please talk to me, Levy. Just 5 minutes. This time, surprisingly, he let her in. She stood awkwardly in the center of his sparse living room, twisting her hands together. Did you release that video? She asked without preamble. What matter if I did? Levi countered, remaining standing, maintaining the power dynamic. Bree's falling apart. Dad's furious. The family name is being dragged through the mud. The precious Danvers name. Levi interrupted, voice soft, but cutting. Always the most important thing, isn't it? More important than kindness, more important than decency. Cassidy flinched. What happened at Christmas was wrong. I should have said something. I'm sorry. But you didn't say anything. You sat there and watched, just like you always do. That's not fair. No, it's perfectly fair. Levi stepped closer, his stutter completely absent in the face of righteous anger. You watched her humiliate me for years. Little comments, little jabs, death by 1,000 cuts, and you never once spoke up. Tears spilled down Cassidy's cheeks. I was afraid of her too, she whispered. Of Dad. Of disappointing them. You don't know what it's like to grow up in that house. I lived with her for 5 years. I have some idea. Cassidy wiped her tears with the back of her hand. What do you want, Levy? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Is that enough? Will you call off whatever campaign you're running against my sister now? Levy regarded her silently for a long moment. Did you know Albie recorded that Thanksgiving dinner 2 years ago? The one where Bree mocked my stutter for her friend's entertainment. Cassidy paled. What? He didn't trust her. Never did. Kept the video as insurance, he called it. In case I ever needed to see the truth. Levi smiled thinly. Turns out he was right. Please, Levy, whatever you're planning next, don't. It's enough. She's suffering. Not nearly enough, Levy replied coldly. And I'm just getting started. After Cassidy left, Levi sat alone in his apartment, replaying the conversation. Her tears, her pleas, her confession of fear, none of it moved him. 5 months ago, it might have. Before Christmas dinner, before turn him off and on again. But not now. Not ever again. His phone buzzed with a text from Jory. Heard Cassidy visited you. You okay? Fine, he texted back. Working. On revenge or actual work? Both. A pause, then. Coming over, bringing pizza. No arguments. Despite himself, Levi smiled. She was so like Albie sometimes. Pushy in the gentlest way, caring without smothering. When she arrived, they ate on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I heard through hospital gossip that the Danvers family is hosting a big reunion next month, Jory mentioned casually. Too casually. 4th of July weekend, all the extended family coming to town. Levi set down his pizza slice. Where did you hear that? Hollis had a minor procedure last week. Wouldn't shut up about it to the nurses. The perfect stage for the final act of his revenge. Bree and Hollis surrounded by family at their most vulnerable and visible. Thank you for telling me, he said. Jory studied his face. You're really going through with this, aren't you? Whatever this is, I have to. No, you don't. She reached for his hand. You could walk away. Start fresh somewhere else. Leave Ash Ridge and the Danvers family behind. And let them win. Let them continue thinking they can treat people like that without consequences. This isn't about them anymore, Jory said gently. It's about you. What carrying all this anger is doing to you. Levi withdrew his hand. I'm fine. Are you? When's the last time you laughed? Levi really laughed. He couldn't remember. Albie wouldn't want this for you, she continued. He'd want you to be happy, to move on. Don't. Levi's voice hardened. Don't use him against me. You don't know what he would want. I knew him better than most, Jory countered, hurt flashing in her eyes. And he loved you more than anything. He would hate seeing you consumed by vengeance. They finished their meal in uncomfortable silence. The easy camaraderie of recent weeks strained by the fundamental disagreement between them. As Jory was leaving, she paused at the door. Whatever you're planning, just be careful it doesn't destroy you too. After she left, Levi returned to his laptop, to the speech he'd been crafting for weeks. Each word chosen with precision, each pause strategically placed for maximum impact. The Danvers family reunion would be a stage, and he would deliver the performance of his life. July arrived with a heat wave that settled over Ash Ridge like a heavy blanket. Levi increased his speech therapy sessions to twice weekly, determined to perfect his delivery before the Danvers reunion. Dr. Chin noticed his intensified focus. You've made remarkable progress, she told him after a particularly grueling session. But I'm curious about what's driving this sudden push. I have an important presentation coming up, Levi replied, not entirely a lie. Something for work. Something more personal. Dr. Chin studied him with professional concern. Levi, speech therapy isn't just about technique. It's also about healing the emotional wounds that our speech differences have caused. I've noticed you're very focused on performance, on control, but less willing to discuss the underlying feelings. The feelings aren't relevant, Levi said dismissively. Control is what matters. Control is important, she agreed. But so is processing trauma. Have you considered that mastering your stutter won't necessarily heal the pain of being mocked for it? Levi gathered his notes, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Thank you for today's session, Dr. Chin. I'll see you Thursday. Outside the community center, he found Elgin waiting, leaning against his battered Volvo. Thought I might find you here, the older man said. Got some news you might want to hear. They drove to a diner on the outskirts of town, where they could talk without risk of being overheard. Over coffee and pie, Elgin shared what he'd learned. The Danvers reunion is set for July 3rd at Hollis's Lake House. Big affair, about 50 family members expected, plus close friends. They're having it catered by Marcel's. How did you find this out? Levi asked, impressed despite himself. Elgin grinned. My ex-wife's sister does the books for Marcel's. I may have rekindled that particular family connection recently. And they mentioned the guest list. Even better, they're short-staffed and looking for extra servers for big events that weekend. Elgin slid a folded paper across the table. Application form, in case you know anyone looking for temporary work who might want access to a certain family gathering. Levi stared at the form, mind racing with possibilities. Elgin, why are you helping me like this? The older man's expression sobered. 30 years ago, I was you. Different circumstances, different people doing the hurting, but the same pain. Wish I'd had someone in my corner back then. He shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. Besides, nothing quite as satisfying as watching entitled people get exactly what they deserve. Back at his apartment, Levi considered Elgin's information. Working as a server would give him access to the reunion, but it would also place him in a subservient position, exactly where the Danvers family was used to seeing him, exactly where they'd expect him to be. No, he wouldn't come as a server, as someone easily dismissed or ignored. He would come as himself, uninvited and unannounced. He would command their attention on his terms. He called Jory, surprised when she answered on the first ring. "I owe you an apology," he said without preamble. "You were right to question my motivations, to worry about what this focus on revenge is doing to me." Jory was silent for a moment. "Does this mean you're reconsidering?" "No," Levi admitted, "but I want to do this right. Not from blind rage, but from a place of clarity. And I could use your help." "What kind of help?" "I need someone to listen to my speech. Someone who will be honest about whether I'm crossing a line from justice into cruelty." Another pause. "When?" "Tonight." She agreed to come over, arriving an hour later with a bottle of wine and wary eyes. They sat on the balcony as the sun set, and Levi handed her the printed copy of his speech. "I want you to read it first," he said. "Then I'll perform it. And you can tell me if there are differences." Jory read in silence, her expression giving nothing away. When she finished, she looked up, meeting his gaze directly. "It's powerful," she said quietly. "And truthful. But Levi, delivering this to the entire Danvers family, it's going to burn bridges permanently." "Those bridges were already burned at Christmas dinner," he replied. "They just don't know it yet. Then let me hear you deliver it." Levi stood, centering himself the way Dr. Chin had taught him. He took 3 deep breaths, felt his diaphragm expand and contract. Then he began. The words flowed more smoothly than they ever had before, his stutter emerging only at strategic moments, points where the slight hesitation actually enhanced the emotional impact. He maintained eye contact with Jory throughout, watching her expression shift from wariness to surprise to something like respect. When he finished, the balcony was silent except for the distant sounds of traffic and cicadas. "Well?" he asked finally. "It's not what I expected," Jory admitted. "I thought you'd go for public humiliation, the way she humiliated you. But this is something different. This is the truth," Levi said simply, laid bare for everyone to see. "No exaggeration needed." "They won't forgive you for this," she warned. "I don't want their forgiveness." Levi's voice was calm, certain. "I want their acknowledgement. I want them to know exactly what they did, and why I left." Jory stood, crossing the balcony to stand before him. "Then I think you're ready," she said softly. "And I'll be there if you need me. Not because I'd fully agree with what you're doing, but because—" She hesitated, searching for the words. "Because Albie would want someone in your corner. And because you deserve that much." The weeks leading up to the reunion passed in a blur of preparation. Levi rehearsed his speech daily, sometimes with Jory or Elgin as his audience, sometimes alone before the bathroom mirror. He purchased a new suit, charcoal gray with a subtle blue pinstripe, had his hair cut, beard trimmed to precision. The night before the reunion, Jory stayed late at his apartment, running through final preparations. "How will you get in?" she asked. "Security might be an issue." "Cassidy," Levi replied. "She's been trying to make amends for months. I called her this afternoon, told her I'm ready to talk. She's meeting me at the side entrance at 2 p.m. "You're using her," Jory pointed out, frowning. "She used me for years as a buffer between herself and Bree's cruelty," Levi countered. "Let's call it even." Jory shook her head, but didn't argue. "What's your exit strategy?" "After the speech, things could get ugly. I'll have my car waiting in the public lot across from the lake house. Once I've said my piece, I leave. Simple. And if Hollis tries to stop you—" "The man has a temper, Levi." "Let him try." Levi's voice was cold with certainty. "I'm not afraid of him anymore." Later, alone in his apartment, Levi stood at the window, watching lightning flicker on the horizon, a summer storm building in the distance. 6 months since Christmas dinner. 6 months of planning, preparing, transforming himself from victim to avenger. Tomorrow, it would end. Tomorrow, the Danvers family would learn exactly what happened when you tried to turn Levi Mercer off and on again. July 3rd dawned clear and hot, the promised storm having passed to the north overnight. Levy woke early, mind sharp with purpose, body humming with controlled energy. He dressed with methodical care. New suit, crisp white shirt, tie the exact blue of his eyes. In the bathroom mirror, he studied his reflection. The man who looked back at him bore little resemblance to the one who had slipped away from Bree's house 6 months earlier. This man stood straighter, his gaze direct and unflinching. This man knew his worth. The lake house came into view as Levi crested the final hill, a sprawling cedar and glass structure perched on the shores of Lake Stillwater. Cars lined the driveway and spilled onto the public access road, the Danvers clan out in force, plus friends and business associates invited to witness the family's prosperity and harmony. Levi parked in the public lot as planned, checking his phone to find a text from Cassidy. "I'm at the side gate. Where are you?" "5 minutes away. Wait for me," he replied, adjusting his tie one final time before exiting the car. The July heat enveloped him immediately, but he didn't sweat. Cool purpose sustained him as he walked the path toward the lake house, rehearsing his opening line silently. Cassidy spotted him before he saw her, hurrying down the path to intercept him. She wore a summery floral dress, hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, the very picture of wholesome family celebration. "Levy," she greeted him, voice low and nervous. "I'm so glad you came. I really think if you and Bree just talk." "Is everyone here?" he interrupted, scanning the property beyond her. "Yes, we just finished lunch. People are having drinks on the back deck now." She frowned slightly, taking in his formal attire. "You're very dressed up. I told everyone you were coming casually." "You told them?" A flicker of annoyance disrupted his careful calm. "Just that you'd agreed to talk. That we might be able to work things out as a family." Cassidy reached for his arm. "Levy, Bree's been through a lot since that video leaked. She lost her position at Pinnacle. She's been seeing the therapist. She's trying to change." "Too late," Levi said simply, gently removing her hand from his sleeve. "Are you going to let me in? Or should I find another way?" Something in his tone made Cassidy step back, really seeing him perhaps for the first time. "What are you planning?" "The truth, Cassidy. That's all. Just the truth in front of witnesses." She hesitated, clearly conflicted, then sighed in resignation. "This way." They walked together along a flagstone path that curved around the side of the house, the sounds of music and conversation growing louder as they approached the back deck. Levy's heartbeat remained steady, his breathing controlled as they rounded the corner. The gathering came into view, dozens of people scattered across the multi-level deck and manicured lawn, drinks in hand, laughter rising in the summer air. Hollis stood near the grill, holding court with a group of middle-aged men who laughed too loudly at his jokes. Mrs. Danvers flitted between groups, the perfect hostess. And Bree stood alone at the deck railing, staring out at the lake, a glass of white wine dangling from her fingers. She'd lost weight, Levy noted dispassionately. The summer dress she wore hung loosely on her frame, and her hair lacked its usual perfect styling. The group nearest the path noticed him first, conversation faltering as recognition dawned. The silence spread outward in ripples, until even Hollis turned to see what had captured everyone's attention. Levy, Bree breathed, the wine glass slipping from her fingers and shattering on the deck. No one moved to clean it up. Hollis recovered first, setting down his spatula and moving toward Levi with forced joviality. "Well, look who decided to rejoin the land of the living. Cassidy said you might stop by." His voice boomed across the suddenly quiet gathering. "Get this man a beer, someone." Levy remained where he was, just at the edge of the deck. "No beer for me, thanks. I won't be staying long." "Nonsense," Hollis insisted, closing the distance between them. "Your family. Of course you're staying." "I'm not family," Levy replied evenly. "I never was." The statement hung in the air, heavy with implication. Bree took a step forward, her face a complex mix of hope and weariness. "Levy," she said, louder this time. Can we talk privately? No, Brielle, he answered, his voice carrying across the deck without him having to raise it. No stutter. No hesitation. What I have to say, I'll say in front of everyone. Hollis's jovial mask slipped, revealing the anger beneath. Now listen here, boy. No, you listen. Levi cut him off, stepping onto the deck, claiming the space. For once in your life, Hollis, you're going to listen to someone else speak. The gathering collectively held its breath. Levi surveyed the crowd. Relatives he recognized from holidays and weddings. Friends of the family who had witnessed his humiliation over the years. Strangers who were about to learn exactly who the Danvers family really was. Perfect. Levi moved to the center of the deck, positioning himself where everyone could see and hear him. The crowd parted unconsciously, creating a circle around him. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted Jory slipping into the gathering, standing near the back for support as promised. 6 months ago, he began, his voice clear and measured. I sat at the Danvers family Christmas dinner table. It was my 5th Christmas with Brielle, my 3rd as her husband. I was asked to make a toast. Brielle took another step forward, panic flashing in her eyes. Levi, please, he continued as if she hadn't spoken. When I stood to speak, my stutter, the speech impediment I've had since childhood, emerged as it often does in moments of stress or public attention. Around the deck, people shifted uncomfortably, some avoiding eye contact, others watching with confused interest, not yet understanding where this was leading. Brielle, Levi said, turning to face his wife directly, decided this was the perfect opportunity for entertainment. She mimicked my stutter, exaggerated it for laughs, called me a broken machine, suggested they turn me off and on again to fix me. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Danvers pressed a hand to her mouth. Hollis's face darkened with anger. Now you might think that's just one incident, one bad moment. Everyone says hurtful things sometimes. Levi's gaze swept the gathering. But that night wasn't an isolated incident. It was simply the moment when I finally recognized the pattern that had defined our marriage from the beginning. He took a deliberate pause, letting the silence emphasize his next words. For 5 years, I was the target of constant subtle degradation. Little comments about my speech, jokes at my expense, Bri helping me finish sentences in public as if I were a child. Hollis and Bri exchanging looks when I struggled with a word, their private amusement at my expense. Levi turned to address the extended family directly. You all saw it at weddings, at holidays, at family gatherings, just like this one. Some of you laughed along. Some looked away uncomfortably. None of you said a word in my defense. Several people in the crowd had the decency to look ashamed. One older woman, Brienne, if Levi remembered correctly, nodded slightly, acknowledging the truth of his words. That night, I finally understood what my brother, Albie, had tried to tell me years ago, that I did no understanding to people who mocked my wounds, that I deserved basic respect, especially from those who claimed to love me. Levi's voice remained steady, but he allowed his stutter to emerge naturally on the next sentence, using it for emphasis rather than hiding it. So I left without a note, without an explanation, because the truth is no explanation should have been necessary. The reason for my departure should have been obvious to anyone with a conscience. Bree stepped into the circle now, tears streaming down her face. Levi, I'm sorry. I was thoughtless and cruel. I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I treated you that way. Please give me a chance to make it right. There's nothing to make right. Brielle, Levi replied calmly. Our marriage is over. I'm not here for reconciliation. Then why are you here? Hollis demanded, moving to stand protectively beside his daughter. To humiliate her in front of everyone. To get your revenge. Not revenge, Levi corrected. Acknowledgement. I want everyone here to understand exactly what happened and why I left. I want the truth to be spoken aloud, just once in this family where secrets and cruelty hide behind smiles and social niceties. He straightened his shoulders, gaining strength with each word. You tried to break me because I paused when I spoke, but now you'll remember every word I say clearly." The impact of his statement was visible on every face in the gathering. Several guests glanced at each other uneasily. An older couple near the back quietly gathered their things and slipped away. A crack had formed in the perfect facade of the Danvers family, and it was spreading. "That's enough." Hollis stepped forward, grabbing Levy's arm. "You've said your piece. Now get out before I throw you out." Levi looked pointedly at Hollis's hand until he removed it. "I'm leaving, Hollis. But know this. I'm not the weak, accommodating man you remember. I don't fear you. I don't need your approval or acceptance. And I certainly don't forgive you." He turned back to address the entire gathering one final time. "Judge for yourselves what kind of family mocks a disability for entertainment, what kind of father encourages his daughter's cruelty, what kind of people you want to associate with going forward." With that, Levi straightened his tie, nodded once to Jory at the back of the crowd, and walked calmly through the parting guests toward the side path. Behind him, shocked silence gave way to urgent whispers and muffled conversations. As he reached the edge of the property, Cassidy caught up with him, breathless and wide-eyed. "Levy, wait." He paused, turning to face her. "What is it, Cassidy?" She hesitated, conflict evident in her expression, then seemed to come to a decision. "I have something you should see, something that proves everything you just said." Cassidy's hands trembled as she pulled the flash drive from her purse. "I've been keeping this since Christmas," she explained, voice low and rushed. "I didn't know what to do with it, whether I should give it to you or destroy it." "What is it?" Levy asked, though he already suspected the answer. "I record all our family gatherings," Cassidy admitted. "Dad doesn't know. I started doing it years ago when I was in therapy, trying to understand our family dynamics. That night, Christmas dinner, I got everything. The toast, what Bree said, all of it." Levi stared at the small device she pressed into his palm, its weight insignificant compared to the potential power it contained. Concrete evidence of his humiliation captured in real time. "Why are you giving this to me now?" he asked, studying her face. Cassidy glanced back toward the lake house, where raised voices could be heard even from this distance. "Because you were right. About all of it. The way they treated you, the way I stood by and did nothing." She met his eyes directly. "I've spent my whole life enabling Bri and Dad's behavior. Maybe it's time someone held them accountable." Levy pocketed the flash drive. "Thank you. What will you do with it?" "I don't know yet," he answered honestly. As Cassidy turned to go back to the reunion, she paused. "For what it's worth, I am sorry, Levy. Not just about Christmas, but about all of it." He nodded acknowledgement but offered no absolution. "Goodbye, Cassidy." In his car, Levi sat for several minutes, processing what had just occurred. His speech had gone exactly as planned. Better, even. The shock on their faces, the dawning recognition in the eyes of their friends and family. It had been deeply satisfying, a release of 6 months of carefully controlled anger. And now this, Cassidy's gift, indisputable evidence of Bri and Hollis' cruelty. His phone buzzed with a text from Jory. "You okay?" That was intense. "I'm fine," he replied. "Meet me at my place in an hour." "On my way." Levy drove home in a state of strange calm, as if a weight he'd carried for years had finally been set down. Not gone completely, he doubted it ever would be, but lighter now, manageable. At his apartment, he changed out of his suit into jeans and a t-shirt, then connected Cassidy's flash drive to his laptop. The video began playing immediately. The Danvers dining room from an angle that suggested the camera had been placed on a bookshelf. The image was clear, the audio crisp, every word, every laugh, every moment of that night, preserved in perfect digital clarity. When Jory arrived, he showed her the footage without comment. "Oh my God," she whispered as Bri's cruel imitation played out on screen. "It's even worse seeing it happen. Cassidy gave it to me after the speech." Levi explained. She's been recording family gatherings for years, apparently. What are you going to do with it? Levi closed the laptop. Nothing. The speech was enough. Jory looked surprised. Really? After all this planning, all this focus on revenge, you have the perfect weapon right there. It was never about revenge, Levi said, realizing as he spoke that it was true. It was about being heard, about saying my piece without stumbling, without being interrupted or mocked. Today I did that. So it's over? Just like that? Not exactly. Levi smiled slightly. There's one more surprise coming their way. I submitted that video anonymously to Bry's workplace yesterday. Jory's eyes widened. Levi, along with several other clips from holidays and gatherings, showing a pattern of behavior over years. Enough evidence to demonstrate that the Thanksgiving video wasn't an isolated incident. That's why you delayed your confrontation until today, Jory realized. So they'd be dealing with the family fallout at the same time as the professional consequences. Levi nodded. Pinnacle Marketing has been looking for a reason to cut ties with her completely. This gives them the justification they need. And Hollis is up for re-election to the school board next month. Let's see how his candidacy holds up when parents learn how he treats someone with a disability. Scorched earth, Jory murmured, not entirely disapproving. They tried to burn me first, Levi replied simply. I'm just returning the favor. The professional consequences materialized quickly. By Monday morning, Bry had been officially terminated from Pinnacle Marketing, the company citing behavior inconsistent with our values of inclusivity and respect. Hollis, facing mounting public pressure, withdrew from the school board race, citing family priorities that everyone in town understood as damage control. Bree appeared at Levy's apartment building again that evening, but this time there were no notes, no shouted pleas. Just a woman standing in the parking lot looking up at his window with an expression of defeat and dawning comprehension. For the first time in 6 months, Levy opened the window. Their eyes met across the distance. Please, she called up, voice ragged with emotion. Just talk to me. Tell me how to fix this. Levi looked down at her, this woman he had once loved who had systematically dismantled his self-worth for years. You can't fix this, he said clearly, each word distinct and final. You can't turn me off. And I'll never let you back on. He closed the window and turned away, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Perfect delivery. No stutter at all. August brought relief from the heat as autumn approached Ash Ridge. Levi moved through his days with a newfound lightness, the burden of his marriage and his revenge plan finally behind him. Word of the confrontation at the Danvers reunion had spread throughout town, along with rumors of the video evidence that had cost Bray her job and Hollis his position. The Danvers family social standing, once unassailable, had eroded dramatically. Elgin, sharing coffee on their adjacent balconies one morning, brought the latest gossip. Heard Briel's moving to Portland. Fresh start, apparently. Good for her, Leva said, and meant it. The anger that had fueled him for months had dissipated, leaving behind neither forgiveness nor bitterness, but a clean detachment. Hollis is telling anyone who will listen that you doctored those videos. Elgin continued, not that many people believe him anymore. Let him talk, Levi shrugged. The truth has a way of prevailing. Cassidy had reached out once more, a text that simply read, "Thank you for using the videos responsibly. I'm starting therapy again. Maybe someday we can talk." Levi hadn't responded, not ready for that bridge to be rebuilt, if it ever could be, but he hadn't blocked her number either. A small opening left for a future that remained to be written. Work had improved as well. With his stutter now a managed part of his speech, rather than a source of shame, Levi had taken on more client-facing responsibilities, even leading video presentations. His promotion to senior systems architect had been formalized, with a substantial raise that reflected his increased confidence and contributions. One Saturday in late August, Levi met Jory for lunch at their usual cafe. Their friendship had deepened over the months, careful and respectful of Albie's memory, but increasingly comfortable in its own right. "I have news," Jory announced as they settled at their table. "I've been accepted to that nurse practitioner program I told you about." "That's fantastic," Levi said warmly. "You'll be brilliant at it." "It's in Seattle," she added, watching his face carefully. "I start in January." "Seattle," Levi repeated, absorbing this. "That's far. 6 hours by car, less by plane." Jory fidgeted with her napkin. "I was wondering if maybe you might consider applying for jobs there too, eventually, when you're ready." The suggestion hung between them, loaded with unspoken possibilities. "I don't know if I'm ready to leave Ash Ridge yet," Levi admitted. "There's still something I need to do here first." "What's that?" "Visit Albie once more. Properly this time." Understanding dawned in Jory's eyes. "Want company for that?" Levi considered, then nodded. "I'd like that." The cemetery was peaceful in the late summer afternoon. Dappled sunlight filtering through mature oak trees that lined the paths. Levi and Jory walked side by side, carrying fresh flowers for Albie's grave. At the headstone, Levi knelt to clear away dried leaves that had gathered at its base. "I brought a visitor," he said conversationally to the stone. "Though I guess she's not really a visitor to you." Jory smiled sadly, placing her flowers beside Levi's. "Hey, Albie. Miss you every day." Levi ran his fingers over the engraved dates that bracketed his brother's too-short life. "I finished what I started," he told the stone. Said what needed saying, made them listen. The breeze rustled through the trees overhead, a natural response to his words. "You were right all along," Levi continued, "about Bray, about not owing understanding to people who mock your wounds. Wish I'd listened sooner." He reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a laminated document, a printed copy of the speech he'd delivered at the Danvers reunion. With careful movements, he placed it at the base of the headstone, anchoring it with a small stone. "Words of power," he said softly. "You taught me that. I finally learned how to use mine." They stayed for nearly an hour, Levi sharing stories of Albie with a freedom he hadn't felt in years, his stutter emerging occasionally, but causing no self-consciousness or shame. When they finally walked back to the car, the setting sun painted the cemetery in gold and amber light. "What now?" Jory asked as they drove back toward town. "After all this, the confrontation, the videos, the closure, what does Levi Mercer do next?" It was a question he'd been asking himself for weeks. The revenge that had structured his days was complete. The marriage that had defined 5 years of his life was over. The future stretched before him, unwritten. "I've been thinking about starting something," he said slowly. "A support group, maybe, or a podcast. Something for people who struggle with speech impediments, or who've been mocked for how they speak." "The pause is power," Jory suggested, smiling. "Has a nice ring to it." Levi laughed, the sound surprised out of him. "How did you know?" "That's exactly the name I was considering." "Because I know you," she replied simply. "Better than you think." As they drove through the gathering twilight, Levi felt something unfamiliar taking root inside him. Not hope exactly, which had betrayed him before, but possibility, a quiet revolution beginning, not with noise, but with clarity. The story of Levi and Brielle Mercer would be told in Ash Ridge for years to come, transformed in the telling but unchangeable in its essential truth. How a quiet man with a stutter had found his voice. How a cruel word had been answered with a powerful one. How a broken machine had rebooted itself on its own terms. And somewhere, Levi liked to think Albie was watching, smiling with pride at the man his little brother had finally become.